Welcome to the show. I'm Sherry Schreiner. Oh, we're back to Monday nights. You know, it felt empty. The last couple of weeks I've been playing around with the schedule of this show. And so I went to the daytimes, and that was brutal. So now I'm spreading it out. Back to Monday nights. And I'll do Wednesday and Friday at noon Eastern. And so, you know, 13 years on Monday nights. Yeah, it felt strange not being on Monday nights. Monday nights is usually the night I like to teach. And then during the week I usually have my 2 cents about what's going on in the news. And so I think it'll work out better that way. Because I really like just spending Monday nights blabbing and just teaching things, maybe going over things I've already taught. And it never fails to be an interesting night anyway. Skies are black. You know, they've been blacking them out. Yesterday was all night long. They use that black technology. It's some kind of, I don't know what it is, but I've noticed it for the past 2 or 3 years. You know, they just blacken out the skies. The chemtrails they spray at sunset blacken the skies out till about 3 or 4 in the morning. And then sometimes you'll see stars start to peer through. Sometimes it fades out earlier, about 2 a.m. on the East Coast, and so they're always hiding stuff. I want to see all the alien ships on fire, maybe all the firefights in the sky. Have you ever seen 2 ships firing those photon laser beams at each other? That's interesting. I've seen that over here. A lot of firefights. Sometimes people just think it's lightning and thunder or whatever. And sometimes it's just not. Sometimes it's the aliens and angels fighting. Sometimes they're just going in against each other. And so that's alien groups going against each other. You never know. You know, somebody mentioned heaven earlier, and I don't remember what it was about, but it made me think, you know, because so many people, they think heaven is just clouds and harps. And we all sit around the temple of God and do nothing. We sing. So I want to talk about that a little bit tonight, because so many people are misconstrued on what heaven is really like. And you know what? Earth is almost an exact replica of what heaven is, because there's nothing new under the sun. And so when mankind was created down here, it pretty much evolved into the way heaven is. You know, in heaven, you've got different heavenly planets. Granted, we don't go planet to planet. We're confined to Earth. But during the millennial reign, 1,000 years rule on Earth of Christ, nobody dies. And so populations are going to be exploding. And so we'll be able to have interplanetary travel. Other planets, some of the former planets will be restored. And we'll have interplanetary travel. That's how heaven is. Heaven has the heliocentric system with the sun in the center and the heavenly planets around it. Operates in higher dimensions. Obviously, so anybody in the third dimension, if you're trying to look into heaven in a fleshly body, whatever, it's not really going to work. You're not going to have the eyes to see. You would have to be in spirit. And I know it's crazy, because when you have visions of heavenly visions and stuff, like, I don't know if I was in the spirit or in my human body. I don't even know. There's really no difference. It's hard to tell, hard to know, because when you switch from one to the other, you don't really notice a huge difference. Not when you're in the moment of something. You're still you. You still have your body, and so it's a different body, but you don't notice it. You don't notice it. But anyway, so heaven is like several different planets, a heavenly system of planets. And there's societies on all the planets, just like Earth. On Earth you have 7 continents. And you have different countries all the way around the world. We have different races, different tongues, different nations. Well, in heaven you don't have that, but you have the different areas. so to speak. Different countries, the different nations, different groups of angels in specific areas. And they're not divided by race or tongues because there's no different races or tongues in heaven. Everybody speaks the same language. But they like to group into communities. Like you might have the orchestra and the choir communities, the farmers, the tech people. Yes, there are tech angels. Heaven is very technical. People don't realize that. Intelligence, scholarly type angels, the warriors. And then you have general societies of different ranks of angels. People are based on ranks. And you earn ranks based on rewards of service. And so you'll see where a lot of things are established. And then, of course, they can mingle. You can live where you want. I mean, you're not confined to any area. And angels have families. They have their families. I know, like, people like to quote one obscure verse, angels don't have sex. Well, maybe one group doesn't, but that's not the whole of them. There's a lot of women, a lot of children, angels in heaven. There's whole societies just like Earth. Nothing new under the sun, folks. Why do you think the angels were tempted by human women? If they couldn't have sex, do you think they'd have been tempted? Think about it, folks. And they produced Nephilim on Earth, hybrids, half human, half angel. In Greek mythology, some of them are known as demigods. These huge giants, Hercules, with extreme powers. Even today, hybrids. They're not the giants of the past. The giantism DNA gene has been pretty much knocked out, but there's tens of millions of hybrids amongst us. Half angels, half fallen angels, half human. And they have extra abilities we don't have. You know, people will hear people talking about reading DNA. Is it possible to read someone's DNA? Yeah, if you have that ability. I know a lot of hybrids that do. They have abilities most normal humans don't have. They can look at you and see how many strands of DNA are operating within you. There was up to 12 strands at one time. Adam and Eve, when they were recreated, when Adam was recreated, and then had Eve, and she was recreated, they had 12 strands of DNA at one time. And then when they fell, it was cut down to 2 strands. They could get into the research of codons. And so, to this day, they try to undo what the Father did at the fall and have people open and be able to operate under all 12 strands of their DNA. I don't know how possible that is. All I can tell you is there is a bit of a difference between hybrids and normal humans with the abilities they have. They can remote view. You always think of the military programs. Who is that guy, the remote viewer? And they try to remote view into the future. And so I've messed with a lot of these people that claim remote viewing abilities, and I would tell them to remote view me and describe my house and stuff like that. And you know what? They would always go somewhere in the past. They would describe some place I lived in the past, but they would describe painted walls that I never had. I never had that color. There's only one person I've ever known that could actually remote view correctly. And so she wouldn't remote view, she would just astral project. She would literally just come here in her spirit body. And they do that all the time, too. That's what causes them to age. But, like, if you're a hybrid, hybrids don't age. But I've noticed that humans who try to astral project and do that a lot, it ages them. It makes them look a lot older than they are. So, their remote viewing is not reliable. It's not reliable. And the thing I've always noticed about learning Bible codes is that there's always 3 routes to anything. And free will can change anything. Nothing's ever written in stone because man's free will can change anything on a day-to-day basis. So there's always 3 different routes. And that's why people get into time travel and they try to review the future. You don't know if that's right, if that's the route we're going to stay on. I've seen us go down and start one route, and it's looking really good, then it just closes and we start a different route. Because of man's free will. That's why nothing's never set in stone. Other abilities they have, some of them can create storms. They can send storms your way. I've had this one try to send me storms for years. Wipes out all the areas around me but never gets to mine. They can send you storms, different things. I've seen they can read things like they see a screen. I don't know what it is to be, what is it called? Photographic memory? Where you have a photographic memory and you can recite anything without actually just skim through a book, and then you can recite what word is on what page, and that would be really awesome. Dennis Rodman has a photographic memory. A lot of celebrities and athletes do. If there's one thing you'll notice, it's that these hybrid kids, these Illuminati kids, these bloodlines, extreme high IQs, triple-digit IQs. The normal human, like a 98, is a 4.0. The normal human has under 100, under a triple-digit IQ. 98, 99 is like a 4.0. Everybody, most of the society that's normal is going to fall underneath that because most of us weren't 4.0 students. But when you look at the Illuminati bloodline families, they have triple-digit IQs. And you're looking at people that Einstein was 119. And you're looking at actors who play comedians on television and in movies, and they have IQs at 160, higher than Bill Gates at 140. Einstein was 119. Bill Gates was about 140. Did you know that rock star or pop star, whoever her name is, Kesha? She has like a 150 IQ. Ashton Kutcher, 180. Can you imagine being that smart, triple-digit IQs? And that's why a lot of them never graduate from schools. They're just so bored with them. Bill Gates never graduated. A lot of celebrities never graduate. Triple-digit IQs, folks. And so, yeah, a lot of them do have abilities that normal humans don't have. But it's because of their bloodlines, their fallen angel DNA. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. Because Lucifer took so much stuff from heaven and brought it down to earth. You know, he set up a give-to-get system. He rules by give-to-get. You have to give him something to get something in return. That's why you see all these people selling their souls, signing the dotted line, giving their souls in return for fame and fortune. You have to give to get. The music, he took a lot of music from heaven, brought it down here, and changed the lyrics. When you hear people like Jimmy Page say that a song just came to them and they wrote it in 5 minutes, that's because they're channeling the music from heaven to people on earth to produce on earth. Stairway to Heaven was one of those songs that they channeled. All they did was change the lyrics. That was actually a song in heaven. A lot of songs, about 90% that people say just came to them because Satan gives them to them. He's very involved in music on earth. He channels it down. Movie ideas, they depict things they've seen in remote viewing and in time travels. People ask me about time travel a lot, and you know what? I know routes exist. I know people, they claim to be doing it. Alternate dimensions, alternate realities. I know people are stuck in them. So it's not foolproof, folks. It's not a safe thing to be doing. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. But yeah, heaven is like a multi-planets. It's a huge society of angels and angelic beings and different types of beings, obviously, because humans don't look like angels in heaven. Even if you're a human on earth, you're not going to go to heaven and have wings. You're going to be transformed. You're going to have a spirit body, but you're not going to transform into what an angel looks like. So there's different groups and kinds of beings in heaven, and those groups and beings tend to live in societies amongst themselves. That's why Enoch described a planet that the Father was building for the people, the patriarchs who died on earth. When they died, they would go to this planet, this heaven, what church calls heaven. And it would be where all those on earth who died and loved the Father would go. Enoch wasn't Jewish. Neither was Abraham. Neither was Isaac. Our early patriarchs, Noah, they were not Jewish. The 12 tribes of Israel are kind of like its own grouping. Apart from the early patriarchs, early Christians. And maybe all these early patriarchs and early Christians, and I'm just ad-libbing, I have no idea, but maybe they all just want to be together in their own little societies. And then you have the Old Testament 12 Israel tribes, Moses, led by Moses, and Jacob's the father. Maybe they have their own little section of a planet or their own planet themselves. You get where I'm going. There's different groups, different branches of the tree, folks. Same tree, they all worship the Father, but there's different branches on the tree. Different parts of heaven, different societies, different groupings in heaven. And you rewarded for the things you did on earth, for your faith on earth. When you go to heaven, you're rewarded with things. You're given your rank. You're given everything, I guess. You're given rewards, which would include your rank in heaven. And the different things. Rank would be probably your it would be status. There's rank and status in heaven. There is a hierarchy system of rank and status in heaven. I don't know about, you can work your way up the ladder, so to speak. I don't remember how that works. But I just wanted to get it across that, heaven's vast. It's much like what we've modeled Earth after. We're not just sitting around on harps. The Warriors have a lot of fun. The Warriors, they have their own type of space fleets. I don't think of angels as having crafts, but they do. They have space fleets. How do you think Ashtar Command and Satan's people and the reptiles, who do you think they got theirs from originally? Because when Satan rebelled in heaven, he was taking what he could with him, not just angels, but also possessions. They had interplanetary travel. They had pods. These little airplane things, little Star Wars craft things I like. Reminds me of them. They had spaceships. They would scout through the universe. They had defense systems around heaven. All that takes technology. Space travel, space weapons, all that's part of heaven. They have outposts where angels defend. They have one in front of the sun, the East Gate. That's the biggest outpost, the East Gate, the sun. I always see fights over there. NASA hides them, covers them up, but you'll see UFOs and angel pod fights in front of the sun a lot. Angels have craft. They can travel through portals. When they're on Earth, when they're on a planet, they can travel within portals on that planet. But when you start talking about space travel, space is really cold. Now, I would imagine in the heavenly system in the upper dimensions it's not cold, but here it is. In our system now it is. The Milky Way galaxy, the fallen solar system we're in now. You want to do everything you can on Earth now to be found faithful. You know, he says if you're found faithful in a few things, he'll put you as a ruler over many things during the millennial reign of Christ. If you're found faithful just in a few things, and most of you can't even be found faithful in that. Your faith is in paganisms. So he can't even find you faithful in celebrating his appointed times and feasts that he told us to celebrate, observe, because you're off with the pagan churches, believing everything you're told by them, instead of asking the Father himself. So you're not faithful in that. You're not faithful in keeping the Ten Commandments, because most of you think the Old Testament's done away with for some reason. The New Testament is a continuation of the Old Testament. It did not negate the Old Testament. It's a continuation. So you think it's okay to steal, lie, and cheat, not honor your parents, not honor the Sabbath day, because the majority don't. 90% of the church celebrates the first day of the week, but they refuse to celebrate the seventh day of the week. Seventh day of the week is Sabbath. And see, if you were a lover of the truth and you wanted the truth, you would just be asking the Father and learning to go to the Father and sitting at his feet, because it says he's the door. People think that ends at salvation. They think that they knock on the door and they get saved, and then they go to the couch. No, we go to the door, you knock on the door, and you can walk through the door and you sit at his feet. You learn how to build a relationship with the Father, direct. He doesn't tell you to go sit in a sun god pagan day church and sit at a pastor's feet and support his second, third homes, his fleets of airplanes, his sports cars, his luxury cars, his vacation homes. He doesn't tell you to do that. You do that on your own. You put that on yourself. And so what are you faithful about, folks? What rewards is he going? What is he going? What about your faith in your works on earth? Is he going to reward that you'll build rank as a ruler in eternity? That's all I'm saying. He says be faithful. He tells the servants, you are faithful in a few things, I'll put you in charge of many. Some of you are just barely going to skim by the gates of heaven. We're grateful to be there, I'll tell you that much. You know, the Bible talks about, one of the first things the Father taught me was that we read in Revelation chapter 12, or not 12, Revelation chapter 7, I believe it's verse 2, it talks about sealing of 144,000 on earth. These little evangelists that are sealed on earth after the sixth seal. 12,000 from each tribe. Dan and Ephraim are not mentioned, but the reason it still comes out to 12,012 tribes is because Manasseh is mentioned and Joseph. See, actually, Joseph split his birthright with his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. So if you're looking at it, technically it would be 14 tribes of Israel. It would be. But it's still 12 because it was Joseph's tribe that he split between his two sons. So with Ephraim and Dan not being mentioned in Revelation chapter 7, nobody notices a difference in the numbers. And these are people, they call them virgins, but that means the spiritual terms. It's not 12,000 men. It's not literal. It's metaphorical. They're virgins. They're not ingrained in the apostasies of the churches in the world. And so they're sealed. They want to stamp a seal on their foreheads. And they can't be harmed. Can't be killed. And so they go throughout the world during the day of the Lord, the great wrath of time on earth. And they preach. They're like evangelists during the tribulation period. But if you back up before then, and if you go to Revelation chapter 14, it talks about a group of 144,000 that are taken up to heaven, and the name of the Father is written in their foreheads. They're not stamped and sealed like the group on earth. They're brought up to heaven, and the name of God is written in their foreheads. He writes his name in their foreheads. People think that this is all metaphorical. That's why they're coming out with, the mark of the beast is in a chip. It's your thoughts and it's your actions. No, it's literal. Now, you read in Ezekiel 9:4, and it's been done before. It says, "And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And it will be done again in the last days. But people will have either his seal, the seal of God in their foreheads, or his written name in their forehead." Anyway, folks, I have this article. You can read my article. Yahweh's warriors, the two armies of 144,000. I explain who they are and what they do. Maybe I'll do a video on it. I know people more people will watch a video than will take 5 minutes to read an article. Now, I've always taught that this first group of 144,000 that gets their name of God written in their foreheads would be taken before the sixth seal. Before the sixth seal. The second group is when they're sealed on earth, Revelation 7, after the sixth seal. This first group will be taken before the sixth seal. Because if you watch the doings and workings of this first group, they're in heaven when Babylon is destroyed. They're in heaven. They actually hear the pronouncements that Babylon has been destroyed. And I believe they're going to be busy in heaven at that time, because aliens and fallen people and fallen angels, they have human stuff everywhere, all over space. And I believe it's this group, the elect, that will go and free them. During the tribulation time, they will be going through space, freeing the captives, and also helping the group that's sealed on earth get from place to place. I've always seen that. I've always seen this one outpost that the angels have. What I could see was an airfield. It was like an airfield. It's not concrete like what an airfield like on Earth. It's like a huge parking lot, I guess you could say. I don't see concrete. But it's where the angels park their crafts. It's an outpost off of Earth. Somewhere. I always had that vision. I always saw it. I always saw me flying onto it and getting out of my pod and walking over to this building, and there was an old man sitting there. I always wondered who that was, and I'd sit down on the ground and we'd sit and chat. I don't know who that was. I've always wanted to know, who is it? Who is it? I've seen Noah, so it's not Noah. And I've seen David, so it's not David. I don't know who it is. Oh, but it's cool because, you learn a lot about how angels operate off-world around us. They're celestial beings. And the fallen beings are terrestrials. Celestial angels and terrestrials. I like how people tell me, they're a nice alien. They're good aliens, really. I just think if they were good aliens, they would be celestial beings instead of terrestrial beings. Because they're terrestrial, they're fallen, they're in a fallen state. And the reason so many of them hate the wicked reptiles is because they want to establish their own new world order, world government on Earth. But they're still fallen state, folks. They're still terrestrial beings with an agenda. Everybody wants to rule the world, but everybody wants to do it their own way. Nobody wants to just leave Earth alone. They don't leave Earth alone. They wouldn't be trying to take it over. Yeah, they're helping humans get rid of all the wicked and bad reptilians because they plan on taking over the world. If they were really interested in humans and wanted to help mankind, they would help us get rid of the aliens, and they would just leave us alone. They have their own plans, folks. It's the tall whites, the same race that Hitler was trying to take over the world for and rule so he could help them establish themselves on Earth. The tall whites, the humanoids, the watchers that fell, the offspring of the watchers that fell. That's who they are. They're the offspring of the watchers that fell. Read about the angels who met on Mount Hermon, made a pact to fall on Earth. It wasn't just 200. It was 200 officers. And they had armies under them of tens of thousands. So when the officer fell, he brought his whole army with him, which was in the tens of thousands. There was hundreds of thousands that fell, left heaven, and came to Earth to procreate with human women. The 200 were leaders. They were officers. And so the tall whites amongst us now, or the aliens, they're the offspring of the watchers. That's why they're humanoid, because when they were punished, their parents, because they're the offspring, their parents were kicked out of heaven, but they didn't lose their angelic looks. They lost their powers and abilities as angels, but they didn't lose their angelic looks, which is why they look like humanoids. Humans. They look like humans, just very tall, very big. The reason why we have reptiles is because when Lucifer sinned in the Garden of Eden, he was cursed to be a reptile. He was cursed to be a snake. It's part of his judgment. See, Lucifer wasn't the only one who rebelled and left heaven or got kicked out of heaven. He's not the only one. But the reason he's the boss is because of who he was. Don't you people get that? Because of who he was. I mean, why should... There was billions. We've killed billions with our orgone war against them. Out of all the fallen, and we have whole constellations full of the fallen. We have Orion and all the constellations. There's 88 constellations, which means there's 88 different races of fallen angels, because they all have their own constellations. That's where they live. That's how they identify themselves. Man, maybe the big and Little Dipper are the same as bears. It's the Chewbacca's. That's what I tell people. Oh, man. Show is ending. I thought I had another 15 minutes. So I guess I'll get... It's a good thing because it's starting to hit me with some kind of... I don't know what. They don't want me talking. But I guess I'll just pick this up next Monday night. But I also have a show on Wednesday at noon, folks. I'll be back here at noon. Anyway, folks, don't forget to support this ministry and our resistance here on Earth. You can go to SherryShriner.com and help keep me on the air. Till next week, everybody. God bless.